On a brisk autumn morning, as sunlight filtered through the sleek glass facade of Meridian Trust Bank's downtown branch, an unusual visitor entered the lobby. Cassandra Reed, the unflappable CEO known for her transformative leadership, had traded her boardroom suit for a nondescript gray coat, oversized sunglasses, and a muted scarf. Determined to understand the pulse of her organization firsthand, she embarked on an undercover mission, a test not of procedures, but of humanity. The branch itself was a masterpiece of modern design. Airy spaces punctuated by warm wooden accents, digital displays gleaming softly amid a hum of activity, and an ambience meticulously engineered for efficiency. Yet beneath the polished veneer, Cassandra sensed that something was amiss. As she strolled casually among customers, her eyes caught details that day-to-day operations might otherwise conceal. A hushed conversation, a hurried glance, and most shockingly, the unmistakable sound of quiet sobbing emanating from behind one of the teller stations. At that moment, hidden among the routine of deposits and account inquiries, a young teller named Marisol stood with trembling hands behind her counter. Her usual bright smile was replaced by a sheen of tears and a look of profound despair. The soft, muffled cries broke through the steady murmur of the branch, halting conversations and drawing curious, anxious glances from nearby colleagues. Marisol's vulnerability struck a chord in Cassandra, who believed deeply that every employee should feel safe and valued at work. As Cassandra edged closer, she noted the subtle cues of distress, a slight slump in posture, hesitant glances over her shoulder, and whispered words that barely rose above the ambient noise. Nearby, Gavin Thompson, the branch manager known for his rigorous insistence on discipline, appeared agitated. Earlier that morning, his tone had been brusque as he reprimanded staff for a minor procedural error. Now, as he stood near Marisol's station, his demeanor shifted into one of awkward defensiveness, as if he were trying to contain a situation that had spiraled beyond mere policy. Inside Cassandra's mind, concern and determination waged an internal battle. Here was a moment that could either reveal deep-seated issues or, if handled with care, become a turning point for the branch's culture. With measured steps, she closed the distance, her presence quiet yet commanding, a blend of authority and genuine empathy that few could ignore. Passing a row of potted ferns and subtle modern art, every detail sharpened her focus on the unfolding scene. Marisol, still wiping tears from her cheeks, looked up in startled disbelief as Cassandra neared. Is everything all right?" she stammered, her voice raw with uncertainty. Her question, laced with both relief and fear, cut through the hushed ambiance of the branch. At that moment, Gavin's eyes darted nervously, caught between protecting his own reputation and confronting the distress that was impossible to ignore. Unable to let the moment slip away, Cassandra slowly removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes that shone with both compassion and unyielding resolve. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she began gently, yet with a firmness that brooked no evasion, "but I couldn't help noticing that something isn't right here." The soft but deliberate tone of her voice immediately hushed the murmurs among the employees. In that instant, the atmosphere shifted. Every head turned, every heart pounded a little faster. Gavin attempted to offer an explanation. Excuse me, he began, words faltering under the weight of Cassandra's unwavering gaze. Marisol, gathering a bit of courage, whispered, "Please, I was hurt by what happened earlier." Her confession, simple and direct, carried a potent mix of fear and disappointment, a silent indictment of a system that had failed to protect her dignity. Cassandra's expression softened at Marisol's admission, yet her next words carried an unmistakable demand for accountability. "I am Cassandra Reed, CEO of Meridian Trust Bank," she declared clearly, her voice resonating through the branch. "I came here today to experience our operations from the inside, to ensure that every employee feels heard, respected, and safe." The revelation sent ripples of disbelief and relief through the room. Gavin's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and defensiveness as he mumbled, I was just following protocol." "Protocols," Cassandra replied, her tone calm but resolute, "should never come at the cost of a person's dignity. When a valued member of our team is reduced to tears, it isn't about procedure, it's about respect in humanity." With these words, the branch transformed from a place of routine transactions into a crucible for candid introspection. In a quiet corner of the branch, away from prying eyes, Cassandra gathered a small group of employees, including a still teary Marisol and a visibly shaken Gavin. She invited them to share their experiences in an atmosphere free of judgment. Today, she said softly, has shown us that beneath every process lies a human story. I want to understand what happened and to ensure that no one ever feels isolated or belittled again. Her invitation was not a reprimand, but an earnest call for honest dialogue. As the group settled into a modest meeting area, voices that had long been stifled began to surface. One employee, an older teller with decades of service, recalled in a trembling voice how, for years, subtle indignities had been brushed aside as standard procedure. I've seen colleagues dismissed with a wave of the hand, their concerns ignored, she confided. We worked in silence, fearing that speaking up might cost us our jobs. Her words were met with murmurs of agreement, and the weight of shared experiences filled the room. Another staff member, a young loan officer whose eyes betrayed years of quiet suffering, spoke up. I remember days when I hesitated to ask for help, even when mistakes were made. I feared retribution, the cold shoulder from management. His voice cracked with vulnerability, exposing wounds that had festered in the shadows of corporate routines. Gavin, who had long prided himself on maintaining order, found himself cornered by the raw honesty of his team. I thought I was upholding high standards, he admitted reluctantly, his tone subdued. I never considered that my approach might be causing pain. Cassandra's gaze, steady and unyielding, encouraged him to continue. Real leadership, she interjected softly, is about recognizing when our methods need to change to protect our people. The conversation deepened as one by one, employees recounted instances of harsh reprimands, unacknowledged efforts, and the quiet resignation that had become a routine part of their work lives. Stories of daily indignities and small cumulative hurts painted a vivid picture of a culture desperately needing reform. With each confession, the bond among the employees grew stronger, a shared resolve to break free from a cycle of silence and neglect. Beyond the confines of that intimate meeting, the impact of Cassandra's presence began to ripple throughout the branch and beyond its walls. Later that day, as customers observed an unusual calm in the lobby, whispers spread among employees about the extraordinary event. The media soon caught wind of the Undercover CEO and her impromptu intervention, and within hours, local news channels were abuzz with the story. In an emergency board meeting that evening, Cassandra faced the senior leadership team, her calm demeanor belying the storm of change she intended to unleash. Today, she stated with measured authority, we have witnessed the consequences of a leadership style that has lost its way. It is not enough to adhere to protocol. We must also honor the humanity of those who make this bank what it is. Her words, laced with both disappointment and hope, resonated with the board members, many of whom had long harbored concerns about the branch's internal culture. A comprehensive internal audit was launched immediately, and the findings were both revealing and alarming. Patterns of undue pressure, punitive measures for minor infractions, and an overall atmosphere of fear were documented in detail. The audit report not only corroborated the employees' accounts, but also identified systemic issues that extended beyond this single branch. As the board absorbed the findings, a decision was made. Sweeping reforms would be initiated to foster a culture of inclusivity, transparency, and support. In the weeks that followed, Meridian Trust Bank embarked on a transformative journey. Cassandra personally oversaw the development of new policies that emphasized emotional intelligence, respectful communication, and employee empowerment. Leadership workshops were instituted for managers at all levels, with a particular focus on fostering an environment where feedback was not only welcomed, but actively encouraged. One of the most innovative measures was the creation of a Voice of the Branch forum, a weekly gathering where employees could share their experiences and suggestions directly with senior management in an open, non-judgmental setting. These forums, held in a bright, modern conference room with large windows that overlooked the city, quickly became a cornerstone of the bank's new approach. Employees who had once been silenced now spoke with conviction. their voices echoing through the halls as they recounted their stories and offered ideas for positive change. Speaking of ideas for positive changes, you should definitely listen to this one. Subscribe to our channel and like this video. It will positively improve our day, thus changing it. We appreciate your support. Let's get back to the story. Marisol, whose tearful moment had become the catalyst for this transformation, emerged as a natural leader. Invited to co-moderate the forum alongside a senior HR executive, she shared her journey from despair to empowerment. "I used to feel invisible," she confessed during one session, her voice steady and sure. "But now I know that my voice matters. Every tear, every whispered complaint, it all contributes to a better tomorrow." Her candidness resonated deeply, inspiring others to step forward and share their experiences. Gavin, who had initially been defensive about his management practices, underwent a personal transformation as well. Reassigned to a mentorship role under close supervision, he began to see firsthand the benefits of a more empathetic approach. In a series of one-on-one coaching sessions, he explored alternative methods of communication and conflict resolution. "I'm learning that true discipline isn't about instilling fear," he admitted during a private conversation with Cassandra. "It's about guiding people with compassion and understanding." His gradual evolution became a testament to the power of accountability and the willingness to change. As internal reforms took root, the transformation at Meridian Trust Bank reverberated throughout the community. Local media, eager to highlight stories of corporate responsibility, followed up with in-depth reports on the bank's journey from crisis to renewal. Interviews with employees, customers, and community leaders painted a picture of an institution that was not only reforming its internal practices, but also setting a benchmark for the entire financial sector. Community centers and local organizations began to invite Cassandra to speak about leadership and the importance of creating workplaces where every individual is valued. In town hall meetings and public forums, she detailed the steps taken at Meridian Trust, emphasizing that accountability starts from the top. "When leaders take the brave step of listening," she remarked in one widely viewed interview, "they not only mend broken systems, they rebuild trust." The transformation also sparked discussions among other banks and corporations in the region. Inspired by Meridian Trust's bold moves, several institutions launched similar internal reviews, with a renewed focus on employee welfare and transparent communication. A coalition of financial institutions even formed, dedicated to sharing best practices and advocating for systemic changes that would prioritize respect and dignity over rigid adherence to outdated protocols. Within Meridian Trust Bank itself, the atmosphere was palpably different. The once quiet corridors now buzzed with animated discussions, creative brainstorming sessions, and a sense of optimism that had been absent for far too long. Employees began to celebrate small victories. Whether it was a successful customer interaction, an innovative idea implemented from a forum suggestion, or simply the knowledge that their voices were being heard. The bank's new culture was one of collective accountability, where every member of the team played a role in nurturing a supportive environment. In the months following the Undercover visit, Cassandra made several follow-up visits to the branch, this time in her official capacity as CEO, to gauge progress and speak with staff directly. Palpable improvements marked each visit. The walls, once heavy with tension, now echoed with laughter and lively conversation. The daily routine had been infused with purpose and mutual respect. During one particularly memorable visit, Cassandra spent nearly an entire afternoon at the branch. She sat with groups of employees, listening intently as they recounted how the changes had improved not only their work lives, but also their overall sense of self-worth. One veteran teller, her voice brimming with emotion, said, "For years I've worked in silence, afraid that my concerns would fall on deaf ears. Today I feel seen, and that changes everything." Another young staff member shared how the new feedback system had encouraged them to propose creative solutions, ideas that once would have been stifled by fear of reprimand. Cassandra herself was deeply moved by the transformation. In quiet moments away from the public eye, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. The decision to go undercover, to witness the raw reality of her institution, had been fraught with risk, but the rewards were immeasurable. "Leadership isn't about perfection," she later confided in a private interview with a business magazine. It's about being willing to confront uncomfortable truths and work relentlessly to make things better. Her candid admission resonated with countless readers and further solidified her reputation as a leader of remarkable integrity. The success at Meridian Trust Bank became a case study in ethical leadership, a model for how organizations could embrace vulnerability and transparency to drive meaningful change. Universities and business schools invited Cassandra to speak, and her story was featured in leadership seminars around the country. Through her example, a new generation of leaders learned that courage and compassion are the true hallmarks of success. As the first anniversary of that fateful day approached, Meridian Trust Bank organized a grand commemorative event at its revamped headquarters. The event was a celebration not only of the internal reforms, but of the collective spirit that had emerged from adversity. Employees, community leaders, and media representatives gathered in a newly renovated hall, adorned with vibrant artwork created by local artists, a visual reminder of the bank's renewed commitment to creativity and inclusivity. At the event, Marisol took center stage once again. This time her voice was strong and filled with conviction as she recounted her journey from tears to triumph. Today we stand as proof that change is not only possible, it is inevitable when we come together, she declared. Her words, met with resounding applause, encapsulated the transformation that had taken place over the past months. Cassandra, standing at the podium alongside her senior team, shared her vision for the future. What began as a moment of raw vulnerability has blossomed into a movement that challenges every institution to reflect on its values and embrace the power of human connection, she proclaimed. The evening unfolded with testimonials from employees, live performances by local musicians, and a series of inspiring presentations on leadership, resilience, and the transformative power of empathy. As the night drew to a close, the bank's corridors, once synonymous with silent conformity, were now alive with laughter, conversation, and a shared sense of purpose. The journey that had started with a single tear had ignited a revolution within Meridian Trust Bank, a revolution that promised to reshape not only the institution, but the broader landscape of corporate culture. Looking to the future, Cassandra vowed to maintain the spirit of openness and accountability that had emerged. Every challenge, she stated during a reflective moment at a subsequent board meeting, is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to build a better tomorrow. Our success is measured not just by our financial results, but by the strength of our community and the dignity with which we treat every individual. In the end, the day that began with a single heart-wrenching cry behind a teller's counter transformed into a defining moment for an entire institution. From quiet corridors of despair rose a chorus of voices united by hope and determination, a reminder that even in the structured world of finance, the human heart remains the ultimate measure of success. The transformation at Meridian Trust Bank serves as a lasting reminder. Real progress is achieved when every individual's worth is recognized. Did you ever have a moment that evoked a similar emotion? Let us know in the comments below.